Hey everyone, RemanX here. A couple of things I want to go over, and I think they're very important to the future of your account. If you're not doing them now, you're probably holding yourself back, and yeah, you're probably not spending enough a day on ISO energy. Let's get right into it, guys. There are a lot of reasons why, and the one not to be least concerned about is ISO level 2 is on the horizon, whether it's the next patch or the following. It is hashtag trademark soon. That being said, it is important to talk about a little bit about what to do daily, what I think is probably some high priority characters, and more importantly, which ones to start focusing on. So let's get right to it. As far as your daily ISO, a good portion of your cores going forward, you may want to start spending towards ISO. And I know Arena sucks. There's a whole nother video coming out about that. We're going to blow open a bunch of issues like arena collusion. Is the cheating fixed? And more importantly, what to expect from Scopely out of it. But let's get right into it. So your ISOs that you're farming right now need to be a lot more than you are. Whether you're farming 100 up to 100 cores, you may want to double that. Whether you're farming up to 50, you may want to double that. The most important thing is you've got to start bringing up characters to level 5. And what I'll say is that's because it looks like, barring anything changing, level 5 was the requirement to get to ISO level 2. Now, ISO level 2 will unlock a lot of cool abilities, including stat bonuses and the like. But more importantly, you'll see that I brought up a lot of ISOs to level 4. This means I can quickly shift if I want to change priorities down the road. But I will say there is one overall arcing ISO that I just do not farm enough, and that's going to be controller. We'll get right into that in a second here, but the most important thing is, let's talk about daily routine. So one thing I like about the Strike Pass is it called out something very important, and I think for a lot of the shortcomings of these battle passes, they have alerted us to what Scopely thinks we should be doing every day, and one of them is something that I think we talked about on the channel, is spending that 400 earned ISO energy. Remember, you get a second refresh worth of ISO energy for free every day that you're just not taking advantage of until the Strike Pass came along and called it out. So it is very important that you are spending that, using your energy, not letting yourself cap. But beyond that, I'm probably going to say, if you can afford it, start doing the 50 cores worth. And the idea is you need an influx of ions. You're going to need an influx of ISOs to be able to capture what you need for ISO level 2. More importantly, that's when the content's going to feel easier. Making changes in the ISO, making the correct ISO changes will help you through DD4, will help you through the Doom Raid. Adding ISO levels make it a little bit easier as you progress, from adding more health to adding more damage to just adding more stats from, crit and crit damage on certain characters that might be important. Cough, cough, X Factor. These are things that you're just not doing right now. So really quickly, just to highlight, to recapitulate what we talked about so far, make sure you're using the Strike Pass as a guideline for how much energy you're spending, and I'd recommend spending a little bit extra beyond that. So let's talk about priority wise. Now, characters that are carrying you through the raid probably won't change. There are some hints. You guys check out Tawna and Valley with some news and some other announcements coming up soon. I think the new patch will reveal some cool characters. We'll go over that once they lock in their rumors. But definitely there are going to be some cool characters that'll probably help out in raids where you're missing. But we're going to go through what I think is some high priority characters. First things first, if you have Doom does belong on that. You'll see that I brought up a lot of my war teams, a lot of my red stars. Hela obviously is a controller. Now we're going to talk about it specifically. You'll see you can sort on your roster now, and this is not by accident, by class progress. So you can examine the characters that you brought to level 5 and why. Again, if you're using X Factor, making a good portion of their team Raider, and taking advantage of that will help them perform. More importantly, I will tell you that Iceman, as a controller level 5, Before the focus changes, I thought it was necessary. I'm not sure afterwards, although I am using him at level gear tier 12, so it is something that you can exchange GT for, or gear tier 14 for the ISO level 5 to get the extra bonuses. So I think it's more importantly by class, characters that you're going to play by class, as far as selecting ISO changes. For the dad bros, having them at level 5 Raider is nearly essential. Adding that extra crit and crit damage is going to help push them over the edge to how they perform. Getting extra speed reliably is a big difference maker. Talking about your skirmishers. Now, your skirmishers should be characters that are reliant on landing debuffs. And the reason is because skirmisher does have that 50% bonus base focus that's really going to push you over the edge. So there are other characters that'll get you through some content. Remember, one of the things I recommend is Symbiote, Spider-Man, and Scream as skirmishers, and as well as Carnage at level 5 to help drop debuffs throughout content. They're definitely that important. And from what we know, it looks like Skirmisher is getting a decent buff, especially for what the symbiotes do with ISO level 2. Now, all of that can change, so I'm not going to talk about numbers. I'm not going to talk about what the ISO level 2 does, but I want you to be aware and prepared for the fact that it's coming here. Next thing I think is important is, like I said, we talked about the Raider in specific when you're relying on the crit. So you'll see that I even have Kestrel here, who's being featured heavily into my arena offense and my RTA right now. So I have her shifted towards that, although I can bring her to skirmisher. And then the other key characters are going to be, specifically, like I said, strikers. So some of your strikers are going to get bonus damage, add some extra effects. Remember, these are going to have to pair with the basic attack to get some of those extra attacks, the extra bonuses out of there. So striker plus basic T4 equal a lot of resources. So it has to be somebody that you're confident is going to be in that category. So, looking at my roster, we'll see some are clearly outstanding. Now, again, striker got a very sizable bonus going forward. And I will say that you may want to pick and choose some healers that you're using every day that you think have value to bring to level 5 now. As of the ISO level 2 test, they had a very interesting mechanic that allowed for a striker/skirmisher interaction to happen. Again, I don't want to get into specifics because there is a lot that is subject to change. Some of that's been released from the NDA, but in my experience, healer also had some value. So be prepared that there will be some shift in recommendations based on characters. The other reason why I want you guys to start farming and probably potentially limit your spending until the patch goes forward is the idea that some of these characters will change from what they are. We've tried to avoid that, but inevitably some characters do have multiple ISOs that definitely suit them, and one size doesn't fit all. And sometimes in that scenario, like you'll see that Thanos has shifted to Striker, still a great Raider, and might shift back there depending on later testing. But for now, Striker with the ability to help him burst down Doom has become the #1 ISO form. So that being said, it is a lot of ISO to go in here and change it regularly. You'll see that we've tried a ton of this. Now remember, I do a lot of testing here to lock in my choices, and so there are definitely some areas where we feel that there's going to be some challenges. The other thing that we want to take into account is ISO interactions added time. And this is going to be something that I'm going to be talking about a little bit here. Sometimes the timeout that we're having is because of all the different ISO interactions and animations happening during those ISO interactions. So sometimes, and in fact, perhaps going forward, we're going to have to evaluate some of their ISO interactions based on overall time that it takes for the the actual attack to execute. We're going to be monitoring that closely because that's come down to sometimes where we're one-shotting nodes and it's a 2-tap for some of these boss nodes. So stay tuned. There's a lot more with that. So last things to take away. Spend cores if you can justify it. You want to start thinking about that. Start farming your controllers. There are a crap ton of them. Look at your raiders for your dad bros, your your strikers and your skirmishers to make sure that they're performing the function. If you don't have them at level 5, they're not getting the bonus focus, and that is something that realistically, if you're not getting, you've wasted ISOs on it. And the last piece of the puzzle is just make sure that you're not wasting ions for now. If you're not sure in a class, you could always ask, but shifting them is going to be really, really expensive. And I expect quite a few of the classes will change. Some will stay the same, but it should be interesting going forward. So just quick warning with the ISO upcoming. Remember, I do things so you don't have to, and I've been farming ISOs and spending money on ISOs. And one last parting piece of wisdom. Level 5, probably level 3, unless you need them to survive more, you can bring in level 4, and then probably stick to keeping characters that you're not using at level 1. Taking the level 2 down your roster is only for EP and stat bonuses, and probably not as helpful as you think it is. Anyway, I'll check you guys soon. We got a lot more content coming your way. A lot of new stuff coming out. We're going to have that arena bombshell video coming up shortly. Love you much.